I'd like to bring up renowned immigration attorney Ruby Powers, the founder of the Houston-based Powers Law Group. Ruby's a change maker for immigrant rights. I hope you'll join me in welcoming her to the podium. Ruby.
Thank you so much. My name is Ruby Powers. I became an immigration attorney to advocate for the voiceless. I'm here today because I've seen the abuse of women and girls at the border and in detention, and I can't and won't be silent. For my family and millions of others, the United States represented a new future. I know that those who immigrate or seek sanctuary in our country are inspired by the desire for safety, security, and the opportunity that drives us all. And that's something that should make us proud. Despite everything that has happened, millions across the world still look to the United States as a safe haven and a land of opportunity. Our nation has always derived strength from our commitment to human rights and the rule of law. But today, we're betraying that legacy in our detention facilities. Women and girls are fleeing horrific gang or domestic violence or lawlessness from corrupt governments. They seek a better life for themselves and their families, but are being locked up in inhumane conditions, without access to adequate medical care and basic personal hygiene. When I was at the border, I met with mothers who were separated from their children. They were lied to, told that their child would be safe, that their child would be there when they returned. All willful lies. In many cases, my clients were not reunited for months, brutally separated from their small children. One mother's 5-month-old baby was ripped from her arms while she was breastfeeding. More than 4,300 children were separated from their families, instructed by our own government and perpetrated by thousands of employees and contractors. It's encouraging to note that lawsuits and public outrage, like we see today, what I see around me, forced the Trump administration to reunite these families, but the administration hasn't stopped. Under the Trump administration's Remain in Mexico policy, many women and children are being forced to live in makeshift tent camps in Mexico, where rape and sexual assault and human trafficking are rampant, and the overwhelming majority have no access to legal representation and assistance while they await a date in court. The women and girls are being forced to navigate a system designed for them to suffer and ultimately fail. A system in which cruelty is the point, a deterrent, a system that betrays every value that truly makes America great. Nothing exemplifies this betrayal more than my client's story. As a separated mother, she was told to take a top bunk in the detention facility, but she begged the officer against the top bunk due to her past C-section and hernia surgeries. Nonetheless, within a few days of detention and climbing up and down the bunk as she was being told, she began to start leaking from her insides out. She didn't know where the fluid came from, but she realized it was from her own body. Her C-section scar had ripped open. Now this is where it gets worse. She was in pain for months. This happened here in Texas, without any medical care except for some Tylenol. She laid in bed, crying, asking for help. Only after my firm took her case, and it was a miracle that we even found out about it, pro bono, did she actually receive surgery. See, they were hoping that she would get deported and no one would know this story. But after a fight, she was released, and we were able to reunite her with her son after many months. Now, I shudder to think of how many others are suffering in silence, or worse yet, deported without proper care and legal representation. But for everyone that we have helped, we know that there's hundreds, if not thousands, without a voice, without representation. Immigration advocates are working tirelessly, 24/7, but our government is denying many migrants basic due process. Today, hearings at our border, just this week, are being closed to observers. Proceedings are not being translated, and all but a lucky few are forced to appear without legal representation. Thousands of migrant cases are processed every day, with only a handful being represented. Even worse, many children are being forced to represent themselves, including children as young as 1 month, just even a few months old. Can you imagine? With Remain in Mexico policy, people requesting asylum with credible fears of persecution and violence are being turned away at legal ports of entry and forced to do their best to survive in makeshift tents camps in Mexico. Women who've been raped in the camps have told U.S. authorities only to be denied entry. My mother grew up in Mexico. It's painful to think what her experience would be if she tried to cross today. I know, I've been to Tijuana, I've been to Juarez, I've been to the Rio Grande Valley. I've represented women who've escaped horrific violence, only to be detained in conditions that scar them. The unconscionable treatment of women and girls is being done in our name, and that means we all have a responsibility to end it. We must speak out. Join your voices to the thousands who are calling for the humane treatment of girls and women at the border, and act. Support organizations that are fighting for migrants at the border, in the courts, and in Austin and DC. You've heard from some amazing allies in the U.S. Congress from today, and I'm thankful for the advocacy of Representatives Sheila Jackson Lee and Sylvia Garcia. They're guiding lights in DC, and I'm so grateful for them. But we need a lot more of them. We need to make calls, we need to donate, we need to block walk for candidates who will fight for justice and help us elect powerful pro-immigrant majorities in the U.S. House, Senate, and in the Texas legislature. We must all act. Thank you.